Happy Canada Day, everybody. James Gordon here, and I'm going to share with you a couple of Canada Day stories, and I'll finish up with singing you a Canadian-esque song. Canada Day was so popular, there was gigs galore for Canadian musicians that you'd try to squeeze in as many as you could, sometimes two or three a day on July the 1st. I remember once I was performing at lunchtime in Stouffville, Ontario, doing a kids' concert, and I had agreed to do it and agreed to perform in Ottawa with my band at the time, Tamarack, at Rideau Hall for their Canada Day celebrations with the Governor General. And I had perfectly worked out like a rock star. I had a taxi cab waiting behind the stage in Stouffville to race me to the airport, get me to the plane on time, which would get me to Ottawa just in time to make it for the show. Everything worked perfectly. Got on the plane. We were nearly at Ottawa, and the pilot said, "You know, we forgot something, folks. Because it's Canada Day, it's the Ottawa Air Show. The airport's kind of busy, so we're going to land at the nearest airport until we can get clearance to come back." And we all went, well, I don't know. I guess so. And it turned out the nearest airport that a large plane can land to Ottawa is the same Toronto airport that I had just left. So we turned around, sat on the tarmac for a while, took off again, uh, landed in Ottawa perilously close to the start time for my show, grabbed a cab, did the famous "get me to Rideau Hall and step on it." He raced me to what he thought was the entrance. Turns out it was the back entrance, and I could see far off past a huge crowd, way in the distance, a little stage where I could hear my own band playing without me. And I had too many instruments in my hand, but I went racing across the field and just got to the stage as they thanked everybody and played their last song. Another memorable one was really early on in my career. I was playing with a folk band called Maple Sugar, and we had it was real folklore extravaganza with fiddle players, step dancers, a lot of the old timers. And I was about 20 years old. This is in about 1976, I'd say. Um, and we got what we thought was a big break. We were invited to play on one of those Canada Day television specials that took place all over the country. And we were invited to perform in Inuvik in the Northwest Territories, as it was known then. Had never been to the Arctic before. It was a pretty exciting adventure. And we got on a plane in Toronto with quite a few bands destined for Inuvik. Our band, I don't know if you remember Shirley Eckhard, she was on the bill, had some great hits back in the 70s. A French-Canadian band called Cano. Quite a few really fine acts. We stopped in Yellowknife on the way, and we were a little bit disconcerted to see that the CBC film crew got off in Yellowknife, leaving us pretty well by ourselves in the airplane to go the rest of the way, us musicians. Turns out they were wrong getting off there. But it was too late. We got to Inuvik. As soon as we landed, I was the young guy in the band that also seemed to be the organizers. It turned out that no one had told Inuvik that these musicians were coming. It was news to them. They did have a hotel reservation for us. Someone had made, I guess, at the CBC. But there was no concert set up. We just had a room there. And I think it was me and one of the other band members went off and booked the high school auditorium and said, send the bill to the CBC. The principal said, oh, okay. And then Shirley Eckhart and myself went to the CBC radio outlet, which was in Inuvik, and talked the radio folks there into letting us promote the show by interviewing each other. So I interviewed Shirley, She interviewed me about my band, and we announced who was going to come, announced it for 1 o'clock the next afternoon in the high school, and that was all the promotion that we can do. Much to our surprise, we got over and set up. When 1 o'clock came around, there was probably 1,000 people. The whole town showed up. Word spread fast. Someone was bringing them entertainment. And I also remember that it was raining out, and everyone in Inuvik, except us, had a pair of rubber boots, identical ones from the Hudson's Bay store there. And when the show started to gather and people were arriving, there was 1,000 pairs. That would make 2,000 identical rubber boots, because you can't wear your boots on in the gym, for heaven's sakes. So that was a big sea of rubber boots, and somehow at the end of the show, everyone managed to pop their feet into a pair of boots. Don't know if it was the same ones or not. The show was a big success. We had to rustle up primitive sound gear and everything. And there was a party after we organized, and one of the things I remember at the party, great jamming, heard some Arctic musicians as well. We were traveling with a piano player, and there was no piano where we were going to have the party. And one of the partiers was a high school teacher who found a friend with a pickup truck, and they broke into the high school and stole a piano, brought it down the street, hauled it up, threw it in the house, and the party was on its way. This is called Too Canadian these days. So, happy Canada Day once again. See if you feel too Canadian sometimes too. I feel as flat as the Saskatchewan prairie, foggy as a St. John's dawn, cold as a Yukon January. Something's wrong, kind of empty in the middle, far away as Hudson Bay. You know I'm feeling just a little too Canadian these days. I got no goals, got no defenses, like the Toronto Maple Leafs, getting good at riding fences. That's our national disease. Kind of empty in the middle, far away as Hudson Bay. You know I'm feeling just a little too Canadian these days. Well, I do something about it, but that wouldn't be like us. We're not inclined to shout it out or make any fuss, though we're so nice to each other. We don't let our feelings show. We prefer to keep them covered up with ice and snow. Kind of empty in the middle, far away as Hudson Bay. No, I'm feeling just a little too Canadian these days. I feel as flat as the Saskatchewan prairie, foggy as a St. John's dawn, cold as a Yukon January. Something's